Hi, my name is Courtney from Katie's Music Studio, and today we're going to be taking a look at learning and practicing the C major scale on the piano. We'll look at different practicing methods you can use, as well as going over the proper fingering positions for the keyboard. We'll also take a look at the C major triad, and we'll also learn the F major and G major scale and triads too. So let's take a look. Okay, so taking a look at the C major scale first, we're going to start on the middle C, which is down here. Now for C major has no accidentals, there's no flats and no sharps. So to play the C major scale, you're going to be pushing all the white keys from middle C up an octave to the higher C. So to start the scale, we'll start on middle C with your thumb. And then we progress up the keyboard. We go to D, the next white key, followed by E, up the keyboard again. Then we go to F, the next white key, followed by G, and then to A, then we go to B, and finally we end on C again, which is just one octave higher than the C we had started with. So that's the basic C major scale within one octave. So again, we start on C to D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. Now the proper fingering positions for the C major scale are as follows. When we look at a score of piano music or sheet music or music in a book, oftentimes you'll see above the notes, you'll see little numbers. So in piano, our hands, each finger is given a certain number, and we apply that number for using proper finger positions. So your thumb is always number 1, your index finger is number 2, your middle finger is number 3, your fourth finger, your ring finger, is number 4, and your pinky is number 5. So for the C major scale, again, we start on middle C with our thumb, so finger number 1. And when we go to play D, we'll place finger number 2, our index finger. To play the next key, E, we're going to place our middle finger, our third finger. Then for the F of the scale, the fourth note, we're going to actually cross under our thumb from our middle finger, and we're going to play the fourth note with our thumb again. And then we're going to keep progressing, and we're going to go back to position number 2 for G, back to position number 3 for A. We'll then use finger 4 for B, and finally use your pinky for the final note of the scale, the final C. The fingering positions just helps your minimal movement going up the keyboard, so you're not trying to figure out which finger to use on which note. It's the easiest way to make your way up the keyboard. So again, you start with 1, 2, 3, you cross your thumb under to the F, and then you go 2, 3, 4, 5. Now when practicing the scales, your best approach right away is to just take it really slow. You don't have to go super fast with it. It's a learning process. So you can take it as slow as you need to and then gradually get faster and faster the more comfortable the keys feel under your fingers. And again, you can take it even slower than that. Remember to cross under. And with practicing, one way to do it, it would be just to practice going up the keyboard. Another way to practice would be going down the keyboard. So same thing, your fingering position is going to be the same, but it's going to be backwards this time. So instead of starting on middle C with your thumb, you'll start on the final C of the scale as you would with your pinky, and you'll go down the keyboard instead. So you'll start on your 5th finger, and then to the next white key, the B, you'll use your 4th finger. A, you'll use your 3rd. G, your 2nd. F, you'll use your thumb. And then you'll cross over your 3rd finger over the thumb like you did on the way up the keyboard. Instead of going under, you'll go over with your 3rd to the E. And then you'll go to D with your index and back to C, the middle C with your thumb. So it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. And if you want to practice both ways, then once those both feel comfortable under your fingers, it'll sound like this. Another way that you can practice your scales is by playing one note at a time and then going back down. So what I would do, I would start with C and go to the D and then go back to C, just so you can get those notes under your fingers comfortably. Once that feels good, you add another note. So then once you have a progression of those 3, you can add another. And remember, on the 4th, you cross your thumb under and then go back down. And add another note once you feel comfortable with that. And then you keep adding one more note every time it feels more and more comfortable and you feel like you've understood the fingering positions. So that's the basic C major scale with 1 octave. If you wanted to do 2 octaves and go from this C to the 1 octave higher and then do 1 octave above that even, your finger positions will go like this. So you start the same and you use 1, 2, and 3. You cross your thumb under and start on 1, 2, 3, 4. But again, you cross your thumb under again to start on C again. And you do 1, 2, 3, cross your thumb under, and then you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it has the pattern of using 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and then finally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's just reversed coming back down. So instead it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. So that's the basics of a C major scale. Again, you can take it as slow as you need to and gradually build up speed. Practice it maybe 5 or 10 times in a row and try and keep getting gradually faster and faster each time you do it. The more you practice that way, it's going to get under your hands a lot more comfortably, and eventually you'll just fly up the keyboard. One more note and one more recommendation when you're playing scales is, instead of just moving your fingering and moving your hands like this, make sure your wrist is nice and steady. It's your brace for the keyboard. Make sure your wrist follows up the keyboard with you. So instead of stretching your hands out, make sure your wrist moves up the keyboard with your hand, and that's going to give you lots of movement. You won't have to feel like you're stretching your hands out. It's going to give you lots of movement and ability to make those note changes. Now let's take a look at the C major triad. So to play a triad, it's essentially a chord. So to play that, you're going to play C, which is the first note of the scale of C major. So you play C with your thumb. For a triad, you're then going to add the 3rd finger, the third note of the C major scale, which is E. And then you'll also add the fifth note of the C major scale with your fifth finger, which is G. So all three together is a triad. Now you can play triads all together like this, or you can play triads broken. So to practice your C major triads, we're going to look at the triad as the normal triad, and then we're going to look at the triad in the first inversion, which is you take your C and you take your thumb off, and you're instead going to add it up here. So when you play your first triad, you then move your hand to the next note. So E is going to be played with your thumb. The G, the fifth note, is going to be played with your second finger. And then the C that you took away down at the very bottom with your thumb is then added at the very top instead with your pinky. And that's the C major triad in its first inversion. Then we go to the second inversion, and once again, you take away the note from the thumb in this position to go to the second inversion, and you're just adding the E one octave higher, and instead shifting your thumb over to the G, and then your third finger will go back on the C here, and your fifth finger adds the E that was taken away down here and is now just played an octave higher. And then to finish it out, you end back on the first position of the chord, and that's starting on C. So you omit the G down here, and you just add it up an octave higher. So move your thumb back to C, and then you play the E with your third finger and the G with your fifth. So it looks something and sounds something like this. And then you can go back down the keyboard again too. With triads, you can play them together, all three notes together as so. Or you can play the triads broken. And if you want to practice moving your hands up the keyboard, just practice taking one position to the other. Instead of doing every one, just do one, start in your starting position, move to the first inversion, and go back. And keep going back and forth until it feels comfortable under your hands and you know where your hands need to go. And then you can add one. To play the G major scale, G major has one accidental. It's the F sharp. So to play the G major scale, very similar to the C major scale, you're going to start with your thumb on G, and you're going to progress up the keyboard. You put your second finger on A. Your third finger is going to be on B. And just like the C major scale, you're going to move your thumb underneath and place it on the C. Then you're going to put your second finger on D. Your third finger will go on E. Your fourth finger, instead of a C major scale where you'd play F natural, the white key, you're actually going to move up to the black key, which is F sharp, on your fourth finger, and then finally playing the G above your starting G, one octave above, you'll play it with your pinky. So again, it's G, A, B, move your thumb underneath, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. And back down, we have G starting on your pinky, G, F sharp with your fourth, E with your third finger, D with your second, C with your thumb, B, you move your third finger over, to A with your second finger, and finally you're back down to G with your thumb again. So it sounds like this. Wanted to do 2 octaves, you're going to do the same position. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, much like the C major scale. So you start on G with your thumb, and you can progress up the keyboard with 2 and 3, cross your thumb under to C with your thumb, 2, 3, 4, with your fourth finger will go on F sharp, and then you cross your thumb under to G, and then continue on with 2, 3, cross your thumb under to the C again, and then D, E, F sharp with your fourth, and then finally end with G in your pinky. So it'll sound like this. And back down. And you can use the same practicing techniques. Take it slow to begin with, as slow as you need to. And if you make a mistake, that's okay. You can start from the beginning to correct yourself. And then gradually you can get faster and faster. Now to learn the G major triads, just like C major again, you're going to start with G in your thumb. G is the first note of the triad. You add the third note from the G major scale, which is B, and then you add the fifth note of the G major scale, which is D, and there you have your triad. Again, you can play them broken or together. And much like the C major scale, you're going to have your starting position, which is starting on the G and then adding the third and the fifth. To go into the first inversion of the triad, you take your lower G and you make sure to put it an octave higher, and you're going to add it there. So you shift your hand up. The third note then becomes your starter with your thumb. You add the fifth note D, and then G is up higher in your pinky. And then again to the second inversion, you're gonna take away this B and you're gonna add it up higher here. So you're gonna shift your hand again, and this time you're starting on D, and then you have G with your middle finger, and you're gonna put B with your thumb. And that's your second inversion. And then to go back to the original triad, you're going to shift again and put the D that's on your thumb, and you're going to play it with your pinky up here instead. So you shift your hand again, and this time G is back on your thumb, B with your middle finger, and D with your pinky. So it sounds like this. And back down. Again, you can practice them broken too. And then finally, let's take a look at F major. So F major, like C and D, you are going to start on the note F with your thumb. Now for the F major scale, again, there's one accidental, but this time it's a B flat. So for the F major scale, you start on F with your thumb. you move to G with your second finger, then to A with your third finger, and then you're going to play the B flat with your fourth finger here. Now instead, you're going to, instead of your thumb crossing under your third finger like you did for C major and G major, you're going to cross your thumb under your fourth finger. So you're going to swing your thumb over and play it on the C. And then you're going to play D with your second finger. You play E with your third finger. And then you're on F with your fourth. And you end the scale on your fourth finger instead of your pinky. So it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, cross under, 2, 3, 4. And again, that's F, G, A, B flat to C, D, E, and F. Now, if you want to play 2 octaves of the F major scale, what you're going to do is you're going to start on F again with your thumb. So you have F, G, A, B flat, cross under to C with your thumb, D and E, and then you're going to cross under again to the F with your thumb and start again. 2, 3, 4, cross under to C with your thumb, and then end with F on your fourth finger and back down to the 3. To start with the F major triad, again, you start with the first note of the scale, which is F, with your thumb, the third note of the F major scale, which is A, and then the fifth note of the F major scale, which is C. And that's an F major chord. And again, you'll move to the first inversion of it. You'll take the F from down here and add it up an octave instead. So you shift your hand. To the second inversion, you take the A that you started on down here and you move it an octave higher. So instead you start on C and add the A with your pinky, and then to the final position, back to the beginning, you have F with your thumb, A, and C, the first, third, and fifth notes of the scale. So it'll sound like this. And again, you can play them broken too. So that has been the C major, G major, and F major scales and triads. Practice at home. Repetition is the best way to practice, is practicing over and over and over again until it's comfortable under your hands and you know where your hands need to go. And hope you enjoyed this video. Practice hard, and we'll see you next time.